Magdalene's blog 41. Johannes was waiting for me in the entrance court, pacing rather nervously around. I had taken off my green cloak and wore a sober dress such as any good Jewish woman might wear, and a head shawl. He greeted me with a smile, which I returned, addressing him as cousin. He bowed slightly. "Mary," he said, "it has been too long," and held my outstretched arms in a token of a hug. "Maybe we could take some refreshment," I suggested. "It has been really hot in the square today." "I know just the place," he said, and led the way into the shady road that ran down the side of the building. We passed a tea house, and would have stopped, but I spotted Saul inside with some of his friends. He seemed to look at me for a moment, but showed no sign of making a connection between me and the green-cloaked priestess he had been raging at a week before. I wanted to move on just in case, and pulled Johannes by the arm. He had seen him too, and agreed that it might be prudent to move straight to where he was living. He could brew some tea there, and he had enough provisions for a light lunch as well. "Lead the way, then," I answered, amused by the solicitous way he phrased the offer. The room that he lived in was a reasonable size, with a table in the middle and alcove spaces around the edge for various uses. A bed was pushed into one. Another was the washroom with a door into a communal yard. The cooking fires were in a third, complete with oven, and the fourth was a store area. Johannes went to his stores to get the ingredients he needed, and then fetched some water from the washroom. I settled back into one of the two comfortable chairs that were in addition to the four stools around the table. "Not a bad place you have here." "It does the job well enough for me," he answered, from the room where he was rekindling a small fire behind the oven. This was exclusively for cooking and heating water, but was a part of a larger fireplace, which would only be opened up and set with a full fire in winter. He was easy to be with, and soon we found ourselves bantering about the different strengths and quirks of the people we were involved with. He conceded that the Magus did make the offerings reappear and reuse them for himself, but argued that as he was God's mouthpiece, this was quite in line with everything he had said. They were in paradise, being used for the future of the people who gave them. All of them would be beneficiaries if they kept faith with the Magus. On the other hand, he questioned our temple's offering up of young women for sexual practices in order to bring in an income. I countered that it was an ancient custom that had brought many young and even older men closer to understanding the divine. "I don't necessarily disagree exactly," he said, "but there are always different ways of seeing the same thing. It is not always easy to judge, or sensible to try to, I think." "Well, how otherwise could we be contemplating working together?" I joked. We ate the food he had prepared, and then he made tea. It was not too bad, considering that he hadn't access to the abundance of fresh herbs that we did at the temple. "It is really strange that you approached me at this time," he said after a space of silence, "because this is the point in the work where I need to have a partner in the rituals." He paused. "Extraordinary that you have arrived just like this." I nodded, thinking it did indeed seem very fortuitous for my purposes as well. Isn't that the way it is meant to work, that the need brings the answer? "You know that it will require quite a lot of intimacy," he said, and blushed, not able to keep his eyes on mine. "More than quite a lot, actually." "I am a priestess of the goddess, you know," I answered gently, feeling the delicacy of the topic between us. I was glad he was sensitive to it. I couldn't work with him if he was not. This needed to be a collaborative venture. Possibilities were beginning to frame themselves in my mind. This might indeed be able to be a collaborative venture in an ongoing way, where both magician and priestess could work together on solving the problems of controlling spirits and related illnesses. Johannes was apparently thinking along similar lines. It will be easier where Simon and his travel companions have left the city. There is so much going on around him at the moment. Is he still here then? I thought he had already left. He will be leaving tomorrow, with a caravan going east. Oh, I said, and then added, maybe at some time you'll be able to come to the temple as well. Maybe there is a way cooperation can be achieved, if we approach it carefully. I wonder if that will be possible, he was saying, when the door from outside the washroom burst open. Saul pushed into the room, with the Magus and other followers just behind. Apparently they had been listening to our words through the nearby window in the yard. Traitor! Saul spat a word at Johannes. Whore! Witch! He shouted at me. The Magus gestured Saul aside and moved into the room. His face was a black cloud of anger. His silence was far more menacing than Saul's shouting. Finally, get out, he said quietly but emphatically to Johannes. I shall deal with you later.